What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Hope you guys are doing well today. And I'm going to talk about something that happened a couple days ago. Pretty much everybody's already heard about this. I think most people have already kind of processed it. Most people have already kind of said their piece on it, or at least thought their thoughts about it. But I want to talk about this for a little bit. I didn't talk about it at the time that it happened, but this is definitely worth exploring for at least one video as a Seahawks fan. And it could end up being very, very impactful on a division rival, which does mean there is a certain amount of impact that comes back to the Seahawks. Like, there just has to be, right? When something happens with a division rival of the Seahawks, it is going to affect the Seahawks. So let's talk about what the Niners are doing this offseason. Real quick, I'm streaming on the Bleacher Report tonight. So if you don't already have the app, download it. I'll be going live over there around 6. I'll post the link in the community tab, so come check it out. Hope to see you guys there. But the Niners are doing something that I didn't think they would do. They are going all in on 2025. And they are doing it taking on some pretty significant risks. Now, I'm not talking about Purdy here, really. Purdy's a part of it, right? But Purdy's young. Purdy's got an opportunity to have a pretty long career in the NFL if he doesn't get hurt again. That's there is a little bit of delicacy there, but overall, Purdy is a relatively young player, and he could be a good quarterback in this league for another 10 years pretty easily. He's going to have to catch some lucky breaks. He's going to have to avoid another shoulder injury could completely make him unviable, but that's one thing, right? But I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about this, which happened 2 days ago. This is what I was talking about initially. The San Francisco 49ers re-upped Fred Warner on a 3-year, $63 million contract extension. Now, if you scroll through this article a little bit, you will find this paragraph right here, and this is kind of the thing that I'm centering on here. Fred Warner had 2 years remaining on his contract, with nothing guaranteed, and he was entering the 2025 season with a $29.2 million cap hit, which for a lot of teams would be completely untenable. But theoretically, because Brock Purdy is still on a pretty cheap deal, because that extension hasn't kicked in yet, you could have dealt with it. You could have lived with the $29.2 million. And that's the first thing I want to talk, kind of list here when we're talking about the Niners offseason so far. And this comes in tandem with the thing the Niners did earlier this offseason. This was, I think, maybe the day after the draft or a couple days. The Niners signed George Kittle to a monster extension, 4 years, $76.4 million. Now, Kittle, it's a little bit different. If you scroll through this article, if you get pretty deep into it, the 49ers were only going to have Kittle for 1 more year on his current deal. Kittle was headed into this season with a $22 million cap hit and 3 void years to follow. So if they wanted to keep him, he probably did need a new contract anyway. So that's a little bit different. But if you want to be technical, he was still under contract for 2025. And again, the fact that the Niners are being so frugal at the quarterback position means they can afford cap hits like that if they really want to. So while I get the Kittle extension in the sense of, well, we got to take care of him, we don't want him playing his contract year out, you didn't have to. And as you can see here, it's a $22 million cap hit for Kittle. Spotrac, they have the first year cap hit for Kittle being about $14.2 million. So you can see they free up about $8 million in cap space, assuming there was no leftover bonus from the old deal. Maybe there was a little bit, but the point is the extension saved money right now, right? The extension cleared cap space for 2025. Maybe not a huge amount, but a significant amount. And whatever Fred Warner's new 2025 cap hit is going to be, we don't know what it is yet. I haven't heard it yet. It's going to be a lot less than $29.2 million. That's part of the reason why you do it. So this all comes together to say the Niners are going for it in a big way in 2025, and they are okay with potentially setting themselves back, maybe even way back in future years to do it. And knowing that there's a distinct possibility their attempt to go for it in 2025 doesn't work out, they're willing to just live with the ugly, ugly results of having these long-term bloated contracts on their books. I mean, remember, these are all extensions, right? So you're adding years onto Warner's 2 years remaining, right? You're adding 4 years onto the year that Kittle had left. So these are long-term commitments, and they're freeing up cap space now, presumably so you can go do some other stuff. Presumably so you can bring in as much talent as possible and try to win the Super Bowl right now. But is that really going to work? So Fred Warner, I kind of get, right? Fred Warner is not that old. He's going to turn 29 in November. So he should still have a good amount of good football left in him, right? Maybe by the end of his extension, you're going to be feeling it a little bit, but he's really good. He's probably going to age decently well. I don't think you're going to have too much to worry about here. And he's been an Iron Man, right? He's missed one game in his career. He missed one game in 2021, I think, and that's it. Other than that, he's played in every game. Now, last year, it is worth noting, he was playing with a bum ankle that was limiting his effectiveness. He didn't look very good sometimes because he was playing with a bad ankle, so it's worth noting that it hasn't been perfect, but I mean, this is for a football player that thrives on making contact and tackling players, this is remarkably clean. And he's not, like I said, he's not super old yet. 29 in November. But George Kittle, like, you are playing with fire here. This guy is going to turn 32 in October. This guy misses at least a game or two or three pretty much every season. This guy is clearly playing injured in a pretty decent chunk of the games that he does play, and he's gutting it out. And think about the way this guy plays. Think about the nature of the tight end position. All the blocking you have to do, all the contact you have to take, all the times you're going over the middle knowing you're going to get blasted. Like, the way George Kittle plays, there was never any hope of some super long career. We knew that. The fact that he made it to 31 and actually is coming off a really good season, coming off a season where he got hurt and he still had over 1,100 yards, right? He got hurt, he missed time, and he still had almost 80 catches. So we've got something pretty notable here with George Kittle. I get that. But this guy's going to turn 32 by the Niners', fifth game of the season? And he's already showing signs of breaking down because he can't play a full season. You're hoping he only misses a couple games. You know he's going to miss at least a couple because that's the pattern, right? Or you could have like 2020 where he misses half the season. That could happen again, I guess. But he's not giving you full seasons, hasn't had a full one technically since 2018. And again, when he plays, what's he doing? Is he 100%? Is he 90%? Is he 65%? Depends on the week, depends on the day. And this is the guy you give a 4-year, $76 million contract to? Now, the contract breakdown matters, but no matter how you slice it, it's tough. Like, these cap hits, they don't ladder up too high, but look at the void years you had to take on. 2030, 2031, 2032, 2033. Like, these are pretty significant hits to be taken for a player who's going to be probably well retired by then. You've got these dead cap hits as well that are going to forbid you from really getting out from underneath this deal before maybe 2028, I guess. It's feasible. It becomes relatively feasible in 2028. And obviously you're doing this because you're hoping he has one great year left, I think. And then maybe he has another couple of decent years left. You're hoping that his body holds up for one more great season where he's maybe the best tight end in football. And hopefully you can grind out another 2 workable seasons after that. and then you part ways, and you're still eating a bunch of dead money. The void years suck, but whatever. You can live with it at that point. It's tolerable, especially if he helps you win a Super Bowl. But he could be that guy that just is hitting the wall. Like, the wall is coming. And I know I talk about this a lot. I had some people in my comments last week talking about how, oh, you always say that Matt Stafford has to hit the wall eventually. Well, he does. Just because he didn't hit the wall last year or the year before doesn't change the fact that he will. It's just really hard to predict when. Now, generally speaking, I think Stafford has kind of exceeded expectations because, to me, a guy who has taken the abuse and has the miles on his body that Stafford does should not be lasting this long and at this high of a level, but he is. So that doesn't change the fact that he will eventually hit the wall. Like, it's inevitable. Same for Kittle. Maybe it's not this year, but it's probably coming very soon, and it could be very sudden. He could go from top 3 tight end in football to barely being able to stay on the field. His body just breaks down. It's going to happen. And I can understand why the Niners are doing this. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad move. Like, their schedule is easier than ours. In some ways, they're obligated to go for it. And like I said, the Fred Warner deal, whatever. Fred Warner. Now, I think there's an argument to be made that he had 2 years left on his deal. Maybe you let him play the second to last year out, and then you see what's up just in case the ankle injury lingers and ends up kind of derailing his career. But I don't think there's anything wrong with extending him long term because he's reasonably aged and he's still playing at such a high level. But the Kittle thing, like, they are pushing their chips in. And I get it because of the schedule. I get it because of the Trent Williams thing, but they need some things to go their way. Remember, Brandon Ayuk, who knows? Who knows at this point, right? Who knows if he's even going to be on the team? Who knows if he's ever going to play for the Niners again? What are we going to get to the season and they're playing Pearsall and Jawan Jennings and those are their top 2 receivers? Right? Jawan Jennings is nice, don't get me wrong, but what's Pearsall done to earn that? What's their offensive line going to be if Trent Williams can't do this anymore? He's another guy that they went all in on a couple years ago. And so far it's worked out fairly well, but he's another guy. He can't do this forever. Maybe he can do this longer than I thought he would, but he can't do it forever. So the Niners, this is not what I thought they were going to do. This is not the route I thought they would take. Now, once they signed Purdy, I think this is probably the right thing to do. But I thought that last year, with the disappointing season they had, would have been an excuse to say, let's reset a little bit. Now, I thought Trent Williams was going to retire. So far, he hasn't. If he does, that might derail things a little bit. But Trent Williams not retiring, I guess, gives them a window to do something like this. But if this doesn't work out, not only are the Niners not going to get to where they want to get to in 2025, they may still be a good team just because their schedule is super soft, but that's not going to help them once they get to the playoffs in all likelihood. They're still going to have to beat teams like Detroit and Philly and whoever else ends up being good in the NFC. A soft schedule won't really help them that much there. But then they're just setting themselves up to have monster cap hits for players that don't deserve it in the next several years. Like Purdy's one thing. At least Purdy's young and he's a quarterback. And I mean, I think it's a crap deal. I think the Niners are dumb for doing that, but there are mitigating circumstances there. But this Kittle thing, to a certain extent, to a much lesser extent, the Warner thing, you're really wishing on a lucky star with Trent Williams holding on for another year or however long they want him. It's an interesting time for the Niners. So let me know what you guys think. Is this going to work? Because if it doesn't work, like even if it does work, and don't get me wrong, if it does work, who cares? Winning the Super Bowl is what matters. But it could be painful for a while here. You're looking at paying guys like George Kittle a lot of money for probably not a lot of production for a couple years in just a little bit here. And with Purdy's money kicking in, you're not going to be able to overcome that quite so easily. See you guys later. Go Hawks.